Hey guys, Zan here. Sorry about the microphone quality. My headset has died on me, and being forced to use a webcam, that does not have the best quality. So I can write captions for this if anyone really has a problem with it, but other than that, let's get started. So this video, which is about SkySaga, and as the title says, is definitely oriented to having something to remember the game by, but also more importantly, having something to really tell the sort of tale of the game, if I really had to put it in some method or manner like that. So the point of this is not only to have something that I can use to talk about what the game exactly is and why it matters so much to me personally, but also for other people to use this as a sort of memoir for the game if they didn't know what it is. Because this game really had something special to it, and the fact that it was killed is something that to this day, a mere, let's see, oh geez, it's going to be what, 16 days for 1 year after its death, it still makes me mad like the day it happened. So, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get this started. SkySaga was developed by a company called Radiant Worlds. I want you to remember that name because those are the good guys in this story. Radiant Worlds was founded by two very well-known individuals, especially in the UK, and one of their close friends. So the two individuals, if you were big on gaming on the NES in the 80s and all that stuff, these names might ring a bell. It's Philip and Andrew Oliver of the Oliver twins and their friend Richard Smithies. I hope I pronounced that correctly. So basically what happened is the two decided that they wanted to get back into big game development. That's just speculation on my part, so I could be very wrong. And their way to get to this was through SkySaga Infinite Isles, and this was their one game that they had designed in the company of Radiant Worlds. And they were only the founders, of course, they had other developers working on it and all that. So what was it? SkySaga was one of your, I guess you could say, Minecraft butt games, but it's really not, in the way that it kind of played. So it was a voxel-based game that used a little bit more complex meshes and models, but it had something really unique with the playstyle of this game. It was your adventure sort of sandbox game, but it didn't play like the other ones. So when the game started off, for the most part, because it has changed through the versions, and I was an alpha tester since version 4, it ended at version 10 nearly 2 years later, 3 years later. When you start off the game, you're on your little personal airship, this really tiny thing, and it's just, you crash onto an island in the sky, and you find ruins, and inside of these ruins is a megalith, which is able to create a portal to any location in this split-up Sky Island world that makes up SkySaga's game. After you repair your airship and kind of get onto the right track, you find yourself going to the main city of the game, which is called the City of First Light. And I guess while I'm on this topic, I kind of want to bring up how it's kind of interesting that the last version we got to play, Alpha 10, they had changed the name to the City of Last Light, which kind of is interesting in terms of titles versus what happened. So that's going to be something that's on my mind all the time. And back on the topic, when you find out what's really going on by going to the city and you meet up with the main three entities or organizations that are running the whole system with every adventurer and all that, which is the faction of the explorers, the settlers, and the gladiators. These three were the sort of foundation of the entire setup that they had running in the game. after you talk to these guys, you could take quests from them, which explorers would often give you things involving exploration, of course. The settlers would give you things to build on your home island, or things to construct and craft, you know, just as your quests. And the gladiators were more on the PvP sort of thing, but they were removed in Alpha 8 for reform, and we never got to see them again, unfortunately. But that in on itself is one of the things that set the game apart from the rest of the sort of games in this expected genre, in a sense. So, what made it really special for this aspect is the engagement. The characters that were the heads of each of these factions, your main relations were with the explorers and settlers, because those were oriented to PvE, and that's kind of where that megalith portal thing came in, because that's how you got to your quest worlds. But one of the things that has always puzzled me, it has broken my mind at how they did it, is the engagement. When you played SkySaga, it was like... It wasn't like any other MMO I've played. That wasn't like any other RPG. It wasn't like any game. I have never seen a game do this on the same magnitude that SkySaga did. But you really, really felt like you were a part of the game, like you were embedded into it. And I don't say that like it's just plain immersive. No, it went an extra mile. There was something unexplainable about it that made it feel like you could really be there. And I don't know what it was with the dialogue or what, but it felt like you were really a true part of this system. And I think that was definitely something other players can confirm they felt. You know, if you want to add to that, you can in the comments. I do certainly encourage you. But it was just so fascinating being able to see people go around, and they were all kind of in on this idea of adventure and all that. And it was just one of the most amazing things I have ever seen in a game. And I really do hope I get to see that somewhere again, because it was a certainly unique feeling that I don't think I will ever experience on such a magnitude again. So let's get into the real guts of the gameplay. So, as I've kind of established already, SkySaga was this sort of adventurers out there game, and it was all about the exploration. So despite being an MMO, you weren't really there to grind for gear and all that stuff. That wasn't really that big a deal. The game was about the adventure and the exploration, and you were well rewarded if you did that in your quests. So whenever you got a quest, you were usually going out to find resources or see some place in your megalith portal. And you got keystones to open to different biomes and all that, and it was really neat. But when you went there, you had the option of playing it two ways. You could either do the bare minimum, grab what the guy wanted and come back, or you could explore. And you were well rewarded for exploring. You would find structures, caves, all kinds of stuff, and you'd get extra resources, and there were ample treasure chests everywhere in these hidden structures and all that. And some of them weren't even hidden, they were just in plain sight. It was just up to you to explore them. And it was one of the most amazing things. So when you're told, you know, on a quest, go gather 5 pieces of cactus or something, you know, you'd be playing that game for that one quest for almost an hour even, just exploring the world. Yeah, sure, you got your cactus, but it's just so fun to look around and, you know, find all that stuff. And the way that they had kind of pushed that, having such simple minimum quests, but offering that extra sort of gift of exploring, the way they executed it was just flawless. It worked great, and I hope I do get to see something like that in something they make again. Let's see, moving on, let's see, so back onto the City of First Light, because that's where your main factions are. When you did those explorer quests, they kind of tied into the settler quests too, so those resources would end up helping you in settler quests. And if you didn't have the resources, you might have been told by a settler to go get something rather than the explorers. But the explorers tended to be more onto relics and treasure and all that rather than resources. So now, when you got to the settler side of things, it was all about kind of being creative with it. It wasn't kind of the chore sort of quest that you find in other games where it was something like, oh yeah, go gather X, Y, and Z and make sure you can construct part A, B, and C. It wasn't really that so much as it was, hey, here's the resources to use this set of items and equipment. Go have fun with it. And one of the really outstanding things that they did in this nature is the Lumastone update of, I think, Alpha 9, I want to say. I think it's Alpha 9. It might have been Alpha 8. I'm unsure. I really do wish I could remember more. And the thing that really made Lumastone interesting was it was kind of your circuitry sort of setup. So you could make really cool dungeon things in your home island and invite players to it and all that. Or you could just make some really cool stuff. And I remember the first thing that I did, because I really like my computers, was I made a 2-bit full adder out of the AND gates and inverters. And it was very clunky and big, but it worked. So, yeah, so that was one of the other things that I really liked, was the way that they kind of set out to make you play the game. It wasn't just the do chores for the faction. It was actually do chores for the faction, but benefit both yourself and the sort of storyline community of the game, both players and NPCs alike. The storyline just really meshed in with that so perfectly, and I think the way that they had that set up is really the major responsibility for that unique feeling of the game that just made it so engaging. So I guess that's really the core of the game. There's not really much more to explain in terms of the fine details. There's plenty of videos uploaded by various people who got access, and I do encourage you to look at those rather than have me make this video longer. So I suppose it's time to move on to a less upbeat, sort of happy part of the video. We're going to go on to the publishers and the unfortunate demise that happened last year. So yeah, it's really kind of difficult to remember this. So last year, it was August 22nd, 2017 was the day, if I recall correctly. They were working on the open beta, so it was going to be a public game, and they had shut down the servers, I want to say July. I think it was July or even earlier. No, it was actually as early as April, if I recall correctly there. Yeah, so they had shut down the servers after alpha version 10 to begin working on the public beta. And the game had already become very robust, even by alpha 10, so it had more than a lot of promise in light of players coming to it. And the best part was this game was entirely free during its alpha test. It was surprising that they were able to offer so much and listen to so many players without a game source of income, and I think that's where their publisher really did help out, but that relation turned sour, unfortunately. So, on August 22nd, the contract that allowed Radiant Worlds, our good guys with the Oliver twins and Mr. Smithies, had been expired, and the publishers, who are under the South Korean company Smilegate, had refused to renew this contract that allowed them to work on their own game. If you know anything about copyright, it's that if you have a publisher, the publisher owns your game. And that means they can do anything they want, including what happened to the guys at Radiant Worlds, which is they decided to fully cease development and just entirely kill the project right then and there. Like, the last minute, the previous minute they were working on it, the next minute it was dead. It was gone. There was nothing left of it. It was a shock to everyone, and how they are getting through that, or how they really got through that, if they have already. I assume they have. How they really got through that is still something that I think is going to be puzzling me, especially given that even looking at my old screenshots or finding old videos, just, it makes me really kind of mad, and to this day. So, when that happened, it was a shock to everyone. People were going crazy. I know a bunch of people sent an email to Smilegate and all that, and they tried like crazy to get that contract renewed, but it seems that it failed, and the game never saw the light of day after that. And it's probably one of the most tragic stories ever, especially given that the game had such huge potential. It was a unique idea that was bound to shake up the market, but it seems they have other plans with it, and my worst fear is that they wish to republish it. And knowing some of the games from that general region, South Korea, you know, the games they tend to release, and PUBG is a very, very big example here. They tend to be microtransactions sort of games, and I fear that they're going to turn SkySaga into a sort of Trove almost. If you've ever played Trove, it is badly paywalled. I was a beta tester for that game. And that's my worst fear, and that's kind of a big part of this video. Yeah, so I guess I'll get to that next. So one of the things that I really did want to push for this video was just the knowledge of the game. I really wish there was more I could use to tell about it, but given that it was a private alpha and the only things you might get your hands on now are screenshots from random people on random places in the internet, or gameplay videos that were uploaded to YouTube, there's not really much else than that. So my sort of biggest thing with this video is to tell people about the game, because if that Smilegate publisher company who killed the game decides to re-release it under their own market, and it's not the game that I had explained there, I don't know what I would do. It really would hurt, even though I had, you know, such minuscule relation to the game. I was just a simple tester, of course. I don't know if they might see us differently. I think they do. I think they do have a pretty big respect for us testers in the early days, and even the people who were excited for the project in general. But even though I had such little influence on this game aside from simply playing it, it feels like it's sort of an obligation as a member of that test to sort of help them out, to sort of tell about what the game was, and, you know, in that worst case scenario that it gets republished under a really inaccurate title that doesn't represent the true sort of spirit of the game, to have a way to let people know about that. I think it's only fair that they get this in return for what they gave us. So that's really the last topic of this video, I suppose. If you're at this point, you've been listening to me ramble for nearly 20 minutes now, and I suppose that's the greatest thing I could have for my nearly 1 a.m. night. So, in the event that the twins see this, or anyone working on the game sees this, I do certainly hope you guys are going off well. I would not tolerate to see this game come up under that publisher unless they decide to put the original team back. It just won't have that same polish to it. Aside from that, I think that's going to be it for this video. I think I've covered everything that I want to. I think I've gotten the point out. And I know this type of video isn't particularly entertaining, something that would keep viewers engaged, but you know, the point of this is to really tell the story to those who are interested in hearing such a thing. So it will do just fine for that purpose. I suppose that is going to be it. Yeah. So I do thank anyone who has made it this far for listening to me ramble on about this game. And, well, I suppose I'll see y'all later then. As for the channel, I'll try to get more videos out. I've been really inactive otherwise, so I'll try to solve that problem. But yeah, thanks for watching or listening.